on the show right now joining us, and you can watch this if you're watching us on our Facebook feed, our YouTube, or our Twitter. Pleasure to be joined by actor Richard Karn. Of course, you know him as Al Borland from Home Improvement, one of the biggest sitcoms ever from the 1990s. We all watched it.
Huge.
And he's joining us now. And Richard, I cannot thank you enough for taking some time to talk to us. Thanks so much for joining the show here for a few minutes.
Well, you're going to have to thank Lauren. She's the one that reached out, said that he found out I was going to be in the area.
Yeah,
that's fair. And we're going to get to why you're going to be in the area here too, and let people know how they can come down and see you as well. But I mean, before we get into like what you've been up to now, what is it like walking around with that feeling, knowing that like you helped raise a generation of children, you were part of families sitting in front of the TV every night, and one of the great sitcoms of the 90s that people still watch to this day. It's still on today. Yeah. Like, does that ever hit you? Like, man, like I was part of something really, really special in television history.
You know, it hits me when I go out into the world, not necessarily around my home or the places that I go usually, when I'm just hanging out, but when I go out of town or whatever, that's kind of when it happens. And, it was the 90s. So that's a long time ago. But people will come up and sometimes it catches me by surprise. I go, oh yeah. But you're right. I mean, it was like before DVRs. Really, people had to make the time to sit down and watch it, and usually with their families. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
When it was happening, was there a moment you guys realized, like, when you get a sitcom, you put out a pilot, you put it on there, and you hope that the people receive it, and you hope that maybe we'll get a couple years, something like that. Did you have any idea when you guys were doing this show that
there was a moment, there were a lot of moments, but all of my background had been theater. I was in New York for 11 years doing theater, going out to regional theater, worked in Columbus, Ohio, worked in Louisville, places like that. But when I did the pilot of, I didn't really understand the scope of what television could be. I mean, I watched TV, but it never occurred to me that, being in the middle of it was so huge, because you just reach so many more people than you do, when you're doing a play in a town.
Yeah. Well, we know that the show has stood the test of time. I see it all the time pop up that I can watch the series and the season, and it's because it was such a success. It's hard to believe that was almost 30 years ago, but your relationship with Tim Allen has spanned that 30 years, so much so that you guys actually have had a couple shows on the History Channel that I have absolutely loved watching. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Thank you.
And I'm anxiously waiting a season 2 announcement from the History Channel too.
You would think there would be, but they messed it up. They hired Tim and me, and then I guess they just didn't want what Tim and I brought to the table, because the way they edited it was so much less funny than what was actually going on. I think they just wanted modern marvels, and they already had that.
Right.
So I vote for taking it to another place and just expanding.
Well, I hope so, because our family so enjoyed watching it. I mean, I've worked with you previously. And so, of course, every time they're like when I found out you were going to be on Last Man Standing, I was like, oh, we have got to DVR this. But I was sharing with Christian off air something that I knew from the past that you had shared with me before, was that, and it's a little fun fact that I don't know if everybody knows, but that your wife actually played on Home Improvement 2 with you.
Oh yeah. She was on like 6 or 7 or 8 times. She played one of Jill's sisters.
Yeah. Yeah. So how was it working with your wife?
It was, when she got the job, it was like euphoria. I was like, oh, this is so great. And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh no, what if it doesn't work? What if for whatever reason, what if it's not working right? And then she's going to feel bad. And then, that was a real fear, for a day or so until after the first rehearsal. And then it was like, okay, she's great. But they changed her role was supposed to be a stewardess on a private jet that went all over the world. And they changed it to a photographer. So now all of a sudden she had to work with cameras and look like she knew what she was doing. And that's a big change, in 4 days before you tape. So, but she did it. She was a trooper.
Yeah.
We're talking to Richard Karn. Al Borland from Home Improvement joining us today on the show. Fantastic. If you're watching right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, good morning to you guys. You mentioned before, and I think some people don't know about your theater background. and that was a passion of yours. How did you get into theater? What was the draw to theater for you before, television and sitcoms?
Well, I think theater happened for me in high school. I think I did an audition on a dare with some friends, and then I did it, and it was so scary. And once you got up in front of those people and then they started laughing because I was doing a comedy, it just kind of fell into place. I felt very comfortable, even though there was that heightened sense of failure and scariness. It was like, okay, I can do this. This is something I can do. And I just kind of kept continuing that on into college, auditioned for the University of Washington's program for theater. And then as we graduated college, they had auditions for us in New York. That's why I went to New York. I didn't even think about TV and film.
That's so interesting. You went there for theater, no thought of television at all.
No, not really. I mean, I got there and there were soap operas that you could audition for. And then there was the big fear that if you got on a soap opera, which is a really great thing, but then you're like making a lot of money and you buy something and then you buy a condo or you buy some, and all of a sudden you can't leave that show because theater pays, $2 a day. And all those things as a young actor go through your head, should I do commercials? Should I do this? But I just kind of followed whatever happened and said yes. That was the big thing about early in the career, is saying yes to everything.
So take us through how getting the spot on Home Improvement happened. Take us through that process of how you landed that role.
No, I don't think we have the time.
All right. Cliff Notes version.
I met the producers in Indiana, in New Harmony, Indiana. And I took that job. Like I said yes to this job, which was like $100 a week stipend for 2 weeks. And I met who eventually became the producers, the three guys, Matt Damon and Carmen, David and Carmen. They had just come off the first season of Roseanne, and it wasn't for like 4 or 5 years later that Home Improvement happened.
Awesome. Well, let's get into how people can come and see you.
Hartville. I'm right here in Hartville.
You are one of my all-time favorite places. I just want you to know this. Like, this is
Hartville Marketplace. Do you go to the
I live
and all that?
Oh,
everyone
yes.
does. Everyone does.
I live.
They have a show on the web.
Yeah. No, this is you are 5 minutes from my house. Like, I am there all of the time. We go to the flea markets to get our fresh produce in the summer months. Oh my gosh, yes. The indoor marketplace, you've got to try pepperoni roll. They better give you tell Seth and Kirk.
Have the pepperoni roll.
Oh my goodness, like no other. I'm serious. And let's talk about Hartville Hardware. I mean, I could spend hours in there going through the aisles, and the new house, the inside house that they just built, the new version of it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Have you been before? Or is this your first time?
No, this is my first time.
Oh,
it really
just
is.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared. I hope you can take stuff back. Like, you're going to have it shipped home. I just want you, I'm warning you.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm looking at some backhoes.
Oh, you're definitely going to need that shit.
I don't know if that's going to fit in your overhead. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. But we can come and see you this weekend. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing there.
Well, I'm going to be there all day long. I'm going to be at the hardware today, and then tomorrow I'm over at the marketplace. But it's a 5-iron away. It's 180 yards away from each other. So.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I love how you had to fit in a golf pun, because I know you're an avid golfer. It's too bad it's raining, and maybe you could have played Firestone or something, but I think you have before.
Oh, I played Firestone a few times. I even did that Tiger Woods shot where he hit it over the green into the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was so pumped up. I was like 165, 70 yards out. I hit my 7-iron over the green. I was so pumped up.
Yeah. Well, we encourage all of our listeners to come and see you this weekend at Hartville Hardware and Hartville Marketplace. Today, You're at the hardware, correct?
Right.
Okay. You're at the hardware today and the marketplace tomorrow. People can visit on social media. You can go to the Hartville Marketplace or Hartville Hardware, and there's extra details as far as when those timeframes go. But there's also tickets on sale for a meet and greet with you as well. If people are interested in doing that with a little private Q&A session, they get a picture, an autograph, things like that, correct?
What?
Whoops.
Meet and greet with me?
Yes.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
really awesome. Richard Karn, so thank you so much for the time. Thank you for being a show that me and my family could sit around in our living room and watch growing up, because those don't exist anymore. And
that's true.
Yeah, I know.
made my whole family laugh together.
Well, you know what you said earlier about, did it ever hit you? It wasn't until years later when people would come up and just the refrain kept coming up that I watched this with my grandmother. I watched this with my mom and dad. I realized it's not about me anymore. It's about their memories of watching the show and just the warmth that brings back in their minds.
Absolutely. Makes me think of my dad and watching the show with him and hearing him laugh at you guys. And
I even had my dad on the show, and he's not an actor, but they put him in the background and things like that. Actually they asked him for advice because he was a builder, he was a contractor, and we were doing the thing, and Bob Vila was on the show, and my dad's sitting up in the audience watching rehearsal, and they asked, Mr. Wilson, well, they called him Mr. Karn, but Wilson is his last name. It's my last name too. And he goes, what would you call this? And it was like a joist that would hold up a door as you're putting it in. And my dad would, we called it a cripple. And they go, oh, well, we can't say that. And
right.
Well, that's what we call it, but we can't say that on the air. So I think we'll just call it a joist.
Yeah.
Richard, thank you so much for the
you.
time. Have a great time in Hartville this weekend, and good luck on everything you're doing in the future. And just thanks for the time. We appreciate it. It was a great chat this morning.
You're welcome. We'll see you, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yes, hopefully.
Richard Karn, Al Borland from Home Improvement joining us here this morning on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that.